Hey there, friends. I hope everyone's doing well. Today, I'm going to try and recreate Jimmy Page's guitar sound from the song Whole Lot of Love, but I'm only going to be using stock Logic plugins. So let's get started by taking a listen to the isolated guitar track from the original recording. So it sounds like it's a tube amp with the power section pushed really, really hard. It sounds like it's close mic'd. There's some very pronounced mid-range frequencies. It's not too dirty. There's also some bleed from the other instruments in the room, and there's like this very subtle slap or echo kind of effect happening in there that I'm not exactly sure what it is. So let's take a listen to what I came up with, and then I will break it down for you plugin by plugin. So what we're going to try and do here is get as close as we possibly can to the original amp sound. I can't really account for the guitar. He is probably playing a 59 Les Paul. I'm playing a 2014 Gibson SG. So there's going to be some discrepancy there. So let's go through these plugins one by one and talk a little bit about the approach that I used to achieve this sound. So up first, I'm using Amp Designer, and initially I thought he would have used a Marshall of some sort, but I did some digging, and it turns out that he used a Vox Super Beetle with a Rickenbacker cab for this recording. So I chose the British combo with the 212 cab. I'm using a Ribbon 121 on axis. My master volume is cranked all the way up. I am using the effects section just very lightly here because it adds a little extra gain to the signal. No reverb, stock EQ setting, and gain is at noon. Let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, so that's a really good starting point. We have a nice dry sound. It's got a little bit of oomph in the low end, and it has just a little bit of air around it. So that's a good starting point. So what I'm going to be doing is trying to achieve what I like to call a tapey sound, which is emulating analog tape. And I'm also going to use gain staging to help create some complexity and texture to the sound. So up first is the pedalboard, and I'm using a graphic EQ and a treble booster here. And I'll let you hear what that sounds like and then explain it to you. So with the graphic EQ, one of the things that I heard in the original recording was a pronounced 200 hertz and 2K. So I'm starting to blend that in with this EQ, and I'm going to build upon that further as we go. So up next is the high drive, which is a treble booster, but I'm using it in the full range setting, and the level's quite low because to my ear, this got closer to that pushed amp sound without being too dark. Okay. Next in my chain is the tube EQ. And on the original recording, I did notice that there is a dip between 700 hertz and 1K. So I'm addressing that right here. I'm also bringing back in a little bit more of 200 hertz and a little bit more 2K. I have just a little bit of 100 hertz kind of up underneath everything. And I'm really relying on this drive section to add some saturation and character. So let's hear what that sounds like. So the EQ really warms things up and helps round out those frequencies quite nicely. The next thing in my chain here is I'm using a compressor, and I want to kind of focus things and push it forward in the mix just a little bit. So let's hear what it sounds like. So what the compressor is doing here is bringing everything forward in the mix a little bit, and we are sharpening up that 2K and trying to tighten up that 200 hertz a little bit. Up next in my signal chain, I'm using the bit crusher, and what I'm trying to do with this is recreate some of the noise floor and tape hiss, and also some of the natural warmth that tape has. So let's hear what that sounds like. So if you have monitors or if you're on headphones, you'll hear this is a very subtle plugin, but it's really adding a little bit of warmth underneath the low end, and it's adding just the right amount of background noise that you would hear on tape. Up next is Space Designer, and what I'm going to do here is try and recreate some of the natural ambience that I heard in the original recording. So I have this set to an impulse response of a little room, and I have the wet blend down very low. So this is what it sounds like. So that's very, very subtle. It's adding just a little bit of room reflection. And one of the things I'm doing is I'm using the output EQ to roll off the top end and add a little bump at around 60 hertz because I'm trying to emulate the sound of the low frequencies building up in the room. And the last thing in my chain here is the tape delay. And with this, I'm going to further address the ambience and that little bit of slap or echo that I heard on the original recording. I'm also going to use the character section, which is essentially an emulation of tape head saturation, to create some more of that tapey kind of feel that I was talking about. So this is what it sounds like. So all those plugins together help us recreate the ambience and natural reflections in the room. We get some of the warmth and noise that you would get from a tape machine. We get the proximity effect of a loud, close-mic'd tube amp. But the real test is to see how it stands up in a mix. So let's hear that. Baby, I feel all that good time, baby, I feel So to my ear, it blends really nicely with the original recording, and I wouldn't immediately notice that it was plugins and not a real tube amp. So I'm very impressed with the Logic plugins. They got a lot closer to the original recording than I initially expected. So if anyone's interested in these plugins, I will leave a link in the description box to download this channel strip setting. And if you'd like to see a similar video breaking down the lead guitar sound from this song, you can go to my website and join the emailing list, and I will send you a video about that. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you found it useful. If you did, then please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I would really appreciate it. Again, check out the description box for all the pertinent details. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment down below. And as always, we'll see you again real soon with a brand new video. Cheers.